Hello. In this video, we're going to look at another use of methods, and specifically in this video, we're going to write what's called a Boolean method. Now, a Boolean method is really useful if we want to check a bit more of a complex condition. So let me set up this problem for the sake of this video. What essentially my program is going to do is that it's going to take an integer from the user right here, and it's going to check if it's prime, right? So, and if it's prime, it'll print out your number is prime. If it's not prime, it'll print out your number is not prime. Simple enough. Now, one approach to this problem would be simply to write some logic here to find if the number is prime. Then once you do that, store the result somehow. The possibilities with the Boolean. Then use the result in the below condition. Make sense? So we could write some logic here, little chunk of code, and then we could, whatever the result is, we could check it right there at this conditional statement. Now that would of course work, but here's a couple things to consider. One is, if you write the code there, it's not reusable. It's the only place it can be used, and if you need to use it again, you have to go and you could copy that code somewhere else. So it's a one-time use thing. Second thing, if someone's reading this program, they don't actually care how you check if a number is prime. They just want to check if the number is prime. So that means they have to read through all the code that you use and then get to the condition. So this would be an ideal place to use a Boolean method. And a Boolean method is a method that returns a Boolean value, that is true or false. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to write a method in this program, and the method is going to be called isPrime. And of course, this method needs to take a number to check if it's prime, so we're going to pass that method the value a, which is the inputted integer value. And so we want to check if isPrime is equivalent to true, it's going to say you have a prime number, otherwise it's a non-prime number. So now we have to actually write this method. So we're going to write this method inside the class. So methods always start with the modifier is public static. Again, we haven't talked about what those mean. We will get to that in short order. Now, the next thing in a method header is the return type. So in this case, it's going to return a Boolean, true or false. And the name of the method is isPrime. Now, Boolean methods are often called is something. So it's isPrime or has something. It's structured in a way that it's almost makes sense that a true or false would be returned. Now we see that we need a parameter for this method, so the parameter is going to be an integer, and let's call it p, and this is the end of isPrime. Now you'll see here that it's telling me I have an error, and the error is essentially saying you need to return something, but your method hasn't yet. So that's the problem right now. So we're going to go to the very bottom, and we're going to return true. Now, this video is not interested about how to write this method. I'm happy to do a video exploring it if you're interested, so please let me know. However, we'll quickly kind of write the isPrime method now. The reason why I put return true at the end is because essentially to check if a number is prime, we're going to check if it's divisible by everything from 2 up to the square root, up to but not including the square root of that number, right? Because if it's divisible by any number within that range, that means it is not prime. Mean we can stop checking. So to do this, we're going to say for int I equals 2, and I is going to be less than, we're going to take the square root of the value that's passed in. Now, and then each time we're going to say I is equal to I. We're going to increase I by 1 each time. Okay. So now what happens is, one thing to consider though is that, so we have the math class and we're actually using a built-in method called the square root. And we see that the square root returns a double value. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cast it, basically make that double into an integer. That chops off the decimals. Equal to. And so that kind of ensures that these can be compared. Okay. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to check. So I'm going to say if p, which is our number we're checking, mod I is equivalent to 0. If we go and check and we see we have 0 remainder, that means that p is divisible by I, hence it is not a prime number. So we're going to return false. And now this should work, but we're going to do some testing just to be sure, because there might be a couple cases we haven't accounted for. So let's run this through and see what happens. So I input a number, I input 5, your number is prime. Let's run it again, I input a number, I put 6, your number is not prime. Let's run it again, I'm going to put the number 1, your number is prime. And this is the example I was talking about. So whenever you're writing a method to check, or code to check if a number is prime, always start with the if p is equivalent to 1, return false, because 1 is not a prime number. So your number is not prime. Okay, so this is an example where methods are really useful, because what it does is it allows us to get to this point and very quickly say, oh, I'm checking if the number is prime. I don't care about how the program does it, just that it does it. So it makes it a lot easier to read the program. Also, what it means now is I've taken this code to check if a number is prime and written it. I can use it anywhere I want. I can copy it into another program. I can use it multiple times in the same program, so there's a great benefit there. Another point to take out of this is remember that whenever you see a method that starts with the word is or has, it's a Boolean method. It doesn't have to be, but programming etiquette usually dictates that people will follow that rule. So this is again an example where we can use methods inside a conditional statement to reduce the amount of code and make it easier to read. I hope it helped. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to let me know. Have a wonderful day.